Hey everyone, Mark Henick here. I I don't usually do this kind of thing, but I thought that I would. I wanted to share something with you, and I'm hoping that maybe somebody else who is struggling might be able to benefit from this. So as some of you might know, yesterday morning I went on TV here in Canada, on Canada AM, a national morning show, and I told a story about a man who saved my life when I was a kid. I was only probably 14 or 15 years old, I think, during a suicide attempt. I was about to jump from a bridge. I had already climbed over the railing, and in fact I had let go of the railing and I started to fall, and he caught me and he dragged me back over the railing. I talk about this story all the time. I talked about it. I talked about it in a lot of detail in my TED Talk, and just about every other time I speak. For the last 10 years at least, I've been talking about the stranger who saved my life. I've always wondered who that person was. I never really knew. I'm sure he probably told me his name, but I'd long since forgotten. I only really remembered that he was wearing a light brown jacket. But after I did this, after I told this story online and posted to Twitter that I wanted everybody's help in finding him, it didn't take very long actually before I started getting a couple of messages, and two in particular really stood out. So within a couple of hours I got a message from somebody who thought they were who claimed to be his former roommate, and then not long after that somebody who is his soon-to-be brother-in-law. Both contacted me separately and said that he was the person who pulled me back. They also told me that he had actually just seen some of my work. He had seen my TED Talk online about a week ago, and he was actually already writing me a letter to try to find me too. So we were both looking for each other at the same time. Well, yesterday that was a lot for me. That was a lot for me to handle. So I just needed some time, and then today, his brother-in-law reached out to me and said that he wanted to send me his letter. So I sent him my email address, and he emailed it to me a couple of hours ago. I saw it come in, and I saw the subject line, but I didn't actually read it yet. I'm going to do that now, and this is the first time I've had any contact with this person since 2001, 2002, I think. I now know that his name is Mike. I'm not going to share his last name yet. I don't know if he wants me to. I haven't even talked to him directly yet. I'm going to see after I read this how I feel then, and I will want to reach out to him. But I have to take this one step at a time. I'm really I'm uncharacteristically nervous right now. I think people who know me a little bit, that would seem like a surprise. They probably don't think I get nervous about this kind of thing. People who know me a lot probably know that I actually get nervous about just about everything. I'm kind of that type of person. But like I said, if this story can help somebody and show them that in fact people do care about them, like this stranger seemed to care about me, a kid on the edge of a bridge, then I hope that makes it worth it. So, here we go. The subject line is 12 years later. Hi there. My name is Mike. I work for a crisis center for youth at risk from across the province now. I started my career as a youth care worker about 13 years ago in my hometown of Sydney. At that time, I was working at the Boys Residential Center. I was on my way to a back shift from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. one night, driving over the overpass. I remember there were no other cars on the road or anyone else around. As I drove, I could see what appeared to be a person standing on the opposite side of the railing, looking down. My immediate thought was, that's not good. I drove to the end of the overpass and ran into the first open convenience store. I told the clerk that someone might be trying to jump off the overpass and to please call police. He was doing so as I ran out of the store, got back into my car, and drove back to the person. Although you're not supposed to stop on the overpass, I parked my car and began to walk toward the person. As I approached, I could see it was a teenage boy. I didn't want to startle him or overwhelm him, so I gave him lots of space. I acknowledged that things didn't seem to be going so well, and kept the conversation light. I wanted him to know I wasn't there to... I wanted him to know that I wasn't there to judge him or change his mind about things. I was just there to listen. He didn't talk much, and I didn't push the conversation. There were a lot of long pauses, where the only sound was the ice-cold wind blowing in my ears. I asked him his name, and he told me it was Mark. We continued to talk as a single police car approached and parked a distance away. A female officer walked toward us and also established communication while maintaining distance as well. We talked to Mark for what felt like hours, although it wasn't. To this day, I have no idea how long we were up there. It was as if time stood still. At some point along the way, more police cars arrived, as well as paramedics on both sides of the overpass. Onlookers began to gather. Everyone was kept a safe distance away. As we talked, I asked Mark if he could move a little bit closer so we could hear him better. Mark took a moment and then nodded in agreement. As I stood next to him, I looked directly over the railing, seeing things... As I stood next to him, I looked directly over the railing, seeing things from his perspective for the first time. I felt sick. As I stood safely on one side, Mark was on the other, with just the heels of his shoes holding him on the ledge. He was keeping his balance on the railing by the tips of his fingers. I remember thinking, if anything goes wrong, a gust of wind, a loss of footing, I'm going to watch this boy fall to his death. Mark began to repeat how he tried. And he can't do it anymore. He wouldn't elaborate, he just kept repeating, I tried. I tried. I felt like he was working himself up to let go. I was completely focused on his fingers, waiting for them to start slipping. Within moments they did. And as he leaned forward into nothing, I reached out and put my arm around his chest. The officer quickly grabbed him by the back of his jacket. We both pulled him backward over the railing. Mark was safe. Paramedics rushed in, and he was taken away to the hospital. I gave the police a brief statement and was on my way, never to see Mark again. The events of that night have stuck with me for 12 years. It was difficult for me to process, and it took a long time before I could get past it. I've shared the story with those close to me over the years, always saying, I wish I knew where that boy was today. I wondered if he ever went back and finished what he was attempting to do that night. I wonder if he ever... I wondered if he ever found the peace he was looking for. All I could do was remain optimistic and hope for the latter. Fast forward 12 years. I'm at work, and a friend of mine sends me a text. We were roommates at the time of the event on the overpass, and he knew the story. He said, I just watched this TED Talk. I think he's talking about you. I went to the washroom to have some privacy as I watched the video. As I stood there holding my phone, I was overwhelmed with emotion. I listened to this man talk about being on the overpass that night as a youth, and I was suddenly back there again. Mark had grown up. I was looking at this successful, professional, confident man who was using his experiences to help others. I began to cry. I never knew you could feel so... I never knew you could feel so proud of someone you spent such a brief moment in time with. I got myself together and finished my shift, although my head was elsewhere for the rest of the night. That was about a week ago. Since then, I've been contemplating contacting you. My biggest concern was that you would like to keep things the way they are. I didn't know if you wanted to keep the man in the light brown jacket anonymous. I didn't feel like it was my place to make that decision for you. Then I saw the interview yesterday on Canada AM, and your tweets about wanting to find the man from that night. And I knew it was time to write this letter. Mike. Wow. For the last 12 years, I wasn't completely sure if I had actually just made all this up. If this was something that I had just imagined and dreamt. it's going to take me a while to process this, to figure this out. I'm happy. I know it probably doesn't. This isn't bad. I feel good. This is how I express how I feel good. This is me. This is Mark when he's happy. I know what I need to do next. I need to meet Mike. I need to meet Mike. I'll let you know how it goes.